There are no plant sources of B12. I believe this. I have said this. Now I believe that that is scientifically incorrect. We're going to look at this new yet very old tiny plant, its B12 content, why it has B12, as well as a bunch of other nutrients that it has, and it's jam-packed. Some have even referred to it as the world's most complete food. I'll let you make that judgment yourself. But we're also going to talk about the idea of whether or not this could have been a valid source of B12 for our ancestors, and also, look at some of the sustainability and so much more. It's going to be awesome. I love this plant. I'm sure you've seen this plant before, whether you knew it or not. It's pretty much on every body of water around where I live, at least, and it has many names. The less flattering name is duckweed. That's probably what you've heard about it if you know about it, but it's also referred to as water lentils. It's a tiny, free-floating aquatic plant, and it doesn't actually have anchored roots. It just has this little tail that just hangs there. Just a little baby water lentil. Be lentil with me. Like other plants, there are many varieties of duckweed, and they all have different properties, but one amazing fact is that duckweed itself is the fastest growing angiosperm or flowering plant on the planet. Finally, several strains are generally recognized as safe for consumption by the FDA, and it is part of the cuisine in Asia. People are already eating this stuff. As for the B12 content, Market Insider sums up the story pretty well. Their title is that Parable, which is a company, announces natural plant source of vitamin B12 in watered lentils and lentine plant protein, which is their product. I believe that lentine is a mix of a couple strains of duckweed, and the keyword here is natural source of B12. The article goes on. It says third-party lab testing has confirmed that their duckweed crop and their lentine protein contain bioactive forms of vitamin B12. These are in the form adenosylcobalamin, methylcobalamin, and hydroxycobalamin. Seems that adenosylcobalamin is the main one, and remember, B12 is created by bacteria, whether it's an animal or a plant. There is no B12 producing organ, like it doesn't come out of the spleen of an animal. It's from bacteria in animals. And in terms of the plant, it's also going to be from bacteria, so we're going to talk about how that B12 gets in there in a little bit. Now for the amount, they say that duckweed contains 750% of the US recommended daily value of the bioactive forms of B12, and that's per 100 grams of dried plant. So that's about 20 micrograms per 100 gram of dried plant, and we only need about 2.4 micrograms a day per adult. 100 grams dried is a lot, it's about a cup, but so is 750% of the daily value, so it looks like you'd only need about 13 grams to reach the daily value, which is not bad, but it appears that some of the B12 is lost in the cold pressing process, but Lentine is at least confident enough to say that one scoop of their powder has 35% of the daily value of bioactive B12. And I want to mention one particular strain of duckweed that has been bred in Israel that's called Mankai, and it's actually already in the Harvard cafeteria, and the company that created it has done some tests on it. They took people, put them into 3 groups. One group was the Mankai duckweed group, the other was the soft cheese group, and the third was a pea group, just normal old green peas. And here's the interesting part. They measured B12 levels before and after, and obviously the peas did not change the B12 level. But from the study, quote, "The increase in vitamin B12 by Mankai was higher as compared to the changes induced by either cheese or peas. So it raised B12 levels more effectively than cheese," which is awesome. Could this have been a good B12 source for our ancestors? There have been a lot of our ancestors that were virtually vegetarian, or some claims that they were vegetarian. And if you're going a while without meat, then you are not going to be getting enough B12, and absolutely people weren't getting it from dairy. Something like insects is also not very promising, so we have to ask the question, were there other sources of B12? Possibly from plants. Thinking about this, up until about 45,000 years ago, all of our ancestors were down by the equator. They were in like Mesopotamia and Africa. Humans were also always by water, and I've talked about B12 in water a while back, mentioning this study where up to, in certain cases, up to 2 micrograms, or pretty much our daily requirements, were found in a liter of water. But we don't have a ton of data on all of the water around the equator, although the bacterial activity would be higher at higher temperatures than where these studies were done. But we also don't know if all that B12 was active and so forth, so I just have to wonder, was there maybe another source, and could it have been duckweed? So first we have to ask, was duckweed even in existence where humans evolved? We have at least a current map of the world, and yes, it appears that right down there in Africa, we have some duckweed. Now I'd love to have duckweed samples taken down there, and water samples taken down there, but I will say it is plausible. We have a plant with B12 naturally occurring in it that is edible, that is where humans evolved. It's a highly plausible option.